This panel brings together entrepreneurs and industry experts to explore how conscious food practices are shaping the future of food and creating long-term value beyond the trend cycle. I'd like to introduce our panelists for this afternoon. Please give them a big round of applause as they come forward. We have with us Kaushik Raju, founder from Farmlore. Rajesh Babu, Chief Operating Officer, Akshaykalpa. Surya Shastry, founder, Phalada Pure and Sure. And moderating this session is Sireesha Chandana, Vice President of Learning and Development and Sustainability, the Indian Hotels Company Limited. Please give them a big round of applause. And with that, it's over to you, Sireesha.
So I would say it's a privilege, honor. I'm very excited actually to be in this room because already in the last hour or so I've met such exciting people doing such great work, whether it is in the space of entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, so much work around food. It's exciting to actually see the passion that exists here, and in all my conversations I think it's just lovely to see the kind of brotherhood, if I may say, and everybody coming together to be able to support each other. It's fantastic. So while we have this fantastic panel here, more than the introductions, I think in my first few conversations, I've just realized that they are a great combination of multiple different skills that they actually bring here. While we are here to speak about conscious food and sustainability, I think whether it is investments as a background, to whether it is social entrepreneurship, to whether it is farming, education, there is a whole lot that this panel here has done. So the spotlight is on them today, and I'm just going to be moderating a few questions. How we'll work this out is that we'll take about 30 minutes between us, and we'll leave the last 10 minutes for the audience in case they have questions. Yeah. So audience, not a commitment up front, but we'll try to leave 10 minutes for you to kind of ask any questions, if any. Yeah. So we'll get started. So my first question is, Rajesh, I'll put it forward to you. Yeah. So it's a household name here, Akshaykalpa. Yeah. So keeping that as a background, one of my thoughts was that how is it that we can work towards putting together food and beverage businesses from a win-win perspective to make sure that all the stakeholders who are involved in this, whether it is consumers, whether it is the producer, whether it is the farmer, whether it is the investor, shareholder, everybody really benefits out of it. Yeah. So if you'll throw a little bit of a light on this to our audience, I think it will be a great start for us.
So thank you for the opportunity. It is really nice to meet so many of you. And I'll start with I think it's a very beautiful question. How do we create a win-win solution today? Because in a world when you see any new business model that is emerging, someone else is threatened and someone else is losing out, right? But that's not the ideal way to build a business. But we believe that farming and food is one sector where we can have a win-win solution. What I mean by win-win, I'll just give a practical example of what the last 13, 14 years of Akshaykalpa journey has been, right? The fundamental problem was, how do we improve the farmer income, right? The farmers today, on an average, you'll be shocked to know that they're earning only 10,000 rupees, and that too a volatile earning. That is a monthly earning of farmer is earning in this country. That's a published data, right? And of course, there is a little bit of non-farm work they do, and somehow they survive, plus subsidies, but that's the state. Second thing you see is the consumers. The consumers are also struggling because they want a good quality produce. They want something which is truly what it was maybe 100 years ago before any of these chemicals were brought into the ecosystem, right? They want a food like that, but unfortunately it is not available. So, and of course the third and the most important thing is planet. I think as we all know, planet is under a lot of stress in terms of increasing carbon emissions, to increasing abuse of chemicals and pesticides. So the model that we came up with is that convert a farmer into an organic farmer. What does it mean? It means stopping the chemical usage for 3 years, right? And then for following all the organic protocols of using cow dung and other things to enrich the soil to back to its original power, because ultimately the superpower lies with the soil. Soil is the one that can transform the nitrogen in the air and carbon in the air into something which is edible and fixed nutrition for us, right? So the farmers grow organic food that is required for the cow, right? And the cows are maintained well, and in turn that output that we get is an organic milk. Today, the consumers in Bangalore, I'm assuming some of you will be our customers here. And if I may ask, how many people are Akshaykalpa customers here? Oh, that's very nice to see so many hands up there. So the customers are willing to pay a premium because they know that this milk is fundamentally different from the other milk that is there. So customers are able to get that value and they're willing to pay an extra price for it. What happens ultimately? All of this, I think the previous panel was speaking beautifully about need for it to be sustainable financially, right? So financial sustainability also comes because you're able to earn the margins and take care of all the cost so that your stakeholders and your shareholders are given their due. And finally, the planet. One of the big achievements of Akshaykalpa is that there is a term called soil carbon. I think some of you, here might have heard that term, right? It is nothing but in simple terms how fertile the soil is. When we start a farm, it is usually 0.4, 0.5. It's almost like a desert. And by the time we, take a 10-year journey to the farmer, it reaches 2.5, which is a very fertile one. So this is the model where the planet is benefiting, farmers are benefiting, and hopefully the consumers are benefiting so that you create a win-win-win solution. And we believe that, I think my fellow panelists are also doing similar work. In the food industry, this sort of a win-win is possible. You're not going to take one value from one and give it to somebody else.
So while you say that this is possible, which stakeholder do you see, Rajesh, is where you have the biggest challenge? Is it with the farmers? Is it with the finding the right kind of investors? Or is it convincing the consumer that this is possibly the kind of product that you should get at? Where is it that the challenge is
when we
highest?
started, to be frank, farmers were a little bit of a challenge because you go and tell a farmer that, you stop doing MSP crop, you stop doing, chemical interventions because no one knows what is the output going to be. In fact, we had to set up a model farms, right? And then demonstrate because nothing is like demonstration. So we took a 20-acre plot, demonstrated it. And also initial few farmers, Akshaykalpa actually funded out its own balance sheet, even though company was struggling. So we had to fund it to demonstrate. That was the initial challenge, to get. Of course, investors were another big hurdle at that time. And to getting institutional capital, both for farmers and for the company. Initial stage, that was a struggle. Thankfully, over the last 10 years, things have improved a lot. So now we have, because they have seen the fellow farmers really economically benefiting, we have a huge pipeline of farmers now who are willing to become organic, who already become organic and waiting for Akshaykalpa to be onboarded. So today the gating item to some extent is consumers because the knowledge for consumers still is not, evolving, I would say. So we need to do more work. I think that is what I was discussing with my fellow panelists also, that our scales are all today still very small because probably people don't still trust that organic is actually different or this is fundamentally different product.
So I think that is going to be one of the biggest tasks going forward, especially in this particular space, because building trust and making them see transparently how the quality of food which is actually going to be coming out is so much more meaningful for their own self. What's in it for them is actually answered quite a bit there. But that is going to be a really long and tiring journey.
Long, yes, it is. See, I think any of the journeys, which are fundamentally change making is hard. So I think you will have the initial 1% people who will switch and then they will tell. It will take time. I don't think you can accelerate this by just doing some celebrity endorsement or doing a big social media campaign, right? So it has to be slow and steady, but we believe that it will happen over a period of time.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. Yeah. So I'm going to move to Surya. So Surya, I think similar kind of a background and the kind of work that has been happening also with y'all. So just taking from the fact that, there is so much greenwashing happening today. Yeah? Labels all over the market will talk about eco-friendly, green and low wastage, no wastage, and all kinds of things which are spoken about on one end. And on the other end, you have enough and more reels coming out talking about how these are not sustainable products. Yeah. So can you throw a little light around, how possibly, regulatory requirements and are possibly important in the scheme of things in the kind of business you are operating in. Yeah, not just regulatory requirements, other issues such as having standards in place and stuff like that also.
Sure. To address that question, fundamentally, I think it all boils down to the farmer, all right, where the supply chain starts. All right. So no matter what regulations you bring in, no matter what comes in, the fundamental part is to ensure that the farmer gets the benefit of doing organic. All right. To make him self-sustainable becomes the number one question. And that's where I think Akshaykalpa also does a lot of work, and we also do a lot of work in terms of, and when a farmer moves into sustainable agriculture or practices, right? There are two fundamental questions that comes to him. One is, okay, what do I do in case there is a drop in yield, or what do I do in case there's a pest attack or whatever? So one, you provide the support system to him to kind of overcome those challenges, and two, ensure that he gets the right price for what he's growing. All right, so that little bit of additional premium that if you could pay, or you calculate your cost of cultivation and support him with that, that becomes the fundamental starting point to be sure that what you're getting is 100% organic. That being said, yeah, India for the longest time, and because organic as a category was very export focused, so the first standard for organic came in during 2001. And up until 2019, there was no domestic standard at all. All right. So all the regulatory, this thing was very focused to the export market, and there was nobody controlling in the domestic market what was being sold as organic. So 2019 is when, and with a lot of lobbying from the industry, we got the FSSI to take the mandate and come in with the regulation in place. So today, yeah, if you're putting a label on the product as organic, there are strict standards followed by FSSI, which you need to follow and have those certifications in place. And that, I feel, is very fundamental for the category to grow, because the category is very dependent on trust. So, and FSI has just started to kind of do the implementation part. So it's still a very long journey. And second part is, from a consumer point of view also, I'm sure nobody here knows what those standards are, what do they need to look on the label, what is that logo that they need to kind of, which will give them that assurance of it being organic. So yeah, that I think is the bigger challenge that companies like us are trying to address, but it requires a lot of intervention from a government and a industry level intervention, because there's only so much that we as brands or companies can do in terms of educating consumers on that. Yeah.
So help me understand that while there is certain kind of regulation which has fallen in place since 2019, yeah, is that sufficient? Or is there more work that needs to happen around that? Your views and thoughts on that particular place?
Yeah, I think as a standard on paper, it is quite strong, because what they've done is basically whatever was there for the export, the same thing they replicated for the domestic also. And in the export space, as a country, we are probably one of the strongest regulated organic standards when compared to, because we export all of these to US and Europe. So the standards that they maintain in that is pretty stringent. That being said, the challenge comes in the implementation part of it.
Sure.
All right. So FSSI has to do a lot in terms of ensuring that the implementation happens at the ground level, follow-ups and checks and things like that. And of course, whenever there's an interesting category which looks like, okay, there is a bigger margin, there are a lot of people who will try to kind of find innovative ways to find a loophole, in the category. Like, for example, today there are quite a few popular brands out there who have just used the word organic in their trademark. All right. So if you look at their label, you'll never find a certification.
Yeah.
And they cleverly, you won't even find the word organic on top of their product name also. All right. But in their brand name, they would use the word organic.
Which is permittable.
Yeah. Which is today permittable. So a lot of consumers, again, who don't have awareness, who buy the product. And that, again, it's taken a long while to build this industry. And we started back in 1999. So, and we're still a relatively small category in the overall food space. And all of these kind of impacts the growth that this industry should probably see in the future.
Very interesting. So this just seems like such a large issue, because it's not like, while you're existing in place since 1990s, and even to date, if we feel that we are just about making a dent, that means that, you know, many of the industries have to kind of come together to be able to kind of make an impact on this front. Yeah. So I guess a lot of collaboration required on multiple fronts here. No? So Kaushik, we come to you. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave this open and say, speak to us about your pet project, the restaurant. What were your motives, inspirations, aspirations? Yeah, where do you want to take it, and what are the challenges that you've kind of faced, you know, bringing this to life? Yeah, it's a passion project, clearly.
Sure. Sure. Thank you. I'm just trying to tie it into this conversation also. So I'm
Yes.
just trying to figure out. I think one of the things that we struggle with in our country is, I think, the knowledge. I think education of customers, because once consumers start asking for something, automatically the back end starts accelerating
Yeah.
that. And not knowing is the biggest challenge. For me, COVID was a big revelation because our export quality is very, very good. And that was the first time I got to try produce of that quality in my own city. And that blew my mind. I'm saying it's being grown in my backyard. And it's not that I'm paying much less. It's just that we don't have checks and balances here, which export quality does. So we're okay to consume whatever is being given to us.
True.
And that was a very scary thought as well, in that sense that we just have no checks. So we can given whatever is available. But you can grow good produce. So it's not that the people can't grow good produce with the standards that are required globally, which are healthy for us. And that's, I think, how do you educate the consumer? So we hold the guys who are in the inspectors or whatever to some level of accountability of what we get. So I think that's the first challenge in terms of educating people. And I think just tying it into the restaurant, that's where I started my journey of growing hydroponics. I said, okay, I'm not getting good produce. Can I grow my own produce within my farm? I spent 2 years before that trying to become organic. Same, stopped using pesticides. I got a few cows. Started putting, and I started seeing the changes and seeing what happened. And people also question on hydroponics: is it safe? So we do use chemicals because in the water you can't make it organic. But what happens in the soil also, there's bacteria and earthworms that convert organic material into inorganic material that the plants can consume. So we're doing the same thing. We're just extracting it from natural sources and converting it into a chemical that they can consume naturally. So we do that tour when people come to the restaurant to show what good produce can taste like or smell. When they see that, it's a fun change in their perspective of, okay, the produce can be this good, that can be grown in a backyard. The second experiment we did in the restaurant itself was, and I'm sure a lot of you have put the sugar patch. I think that's a big fad to see the sugar spikes. And the interesting thing was, in a 10-course meal with 3 desserts, if you don't take the wine, if you take the wine it's different, we had a less sugar spike than a bowl of French fries.
Wow.
Right? It was so.
Wow.
Then I started understanding. I didn't know this. This was just an experiment I did because a friend was running a company in the health tech side. So we just did that experiment and then started understanding, okay, what are we doing differently? And there were 2-3 things that I understood in the consumption pattern. One was the produce itself. It's fresh. There's no pesticides. There's no chemicals that in the produce that we get. Whatever we grow or whatever we pick up is from around us. 2, if you look at the way we used to eat earlier, you're slow paced. You're not in a hurry. You're focused on the food.
Yeah, mindful.
So mindful eating, because we force you to do that in the restaurant.
Yeah.
We kind of are strict about it and make sure people are focused on the food. We sequence it in such a way, and your body is able to consume a luxurious meal without being affected. So tying all that back into, like I said, I think it's the education. Once people understand this, and we talk about this in the restaurant quite a bit when customers come. We story tell about the produce. A lot of them ask us, where can we get these produce? So you kind of start building that up. And I think having centers and having people like Akshaykalpa talking about this and getting the consumers to understand how much benefit this gets. The ROI is not on the produce you bought right away.
Sure.
Don't worry about that. It's your medical bills that you offset is what I say. So that's what you kind of look at is your ROI is on.
Yeah.
And then you will be willing to pay that little premium
Very
that
smart.
enables the ecosystem to grow.
Yeah, very interesting. So, I see clearly a theme which is more to do with building awareness with the consumer. Yeah, so clearly about all the effort that is going with the farmers, whether it is about, building the business in that particular fashion, whether it is creating awareness about the quality of food that everyone is consuming. So, while there are efforts on around building awareness with the consumer, what is your view? Is this enough? More needs to be done. What can we do as a community to create larger awareness around this? Because what will make the entire room put up their hand to say we are all users of Akshaykalpa? Yeah. So I'm just trying to understand what will what is required to create that awareness? Your thoughts. And anyone can take this, yeah.
And I think technology can be the enabler, right?
Enabler.
Because you want to reach a larger audience, knowing where the produce is coming from. Can you create communities that then fund? For example, can you crowdfund 100 farmers that
Sure.
Akshaykalpa is working with? So you're kind of directing the resources and cutting off the middleman, cutting out the challenges that we have with the government or policymakers.
Yeah.
But you participate in the ownership, and I think community-driven actions is what accelerates some of these things. And I think if there's a way to do that, and using technology today, we've
Sure.
got all the technology pieces in place. It's a matter of putting it together and
Yeah, maybe
reaching a
tech
large.
can help us scale in this particular front.
I believe so. It's a thought.
Any thoughts from you, Rajesh?
I think other thing is, we need to question, like for example, when we choose a school, I mean, the amount of diligence a parent does
Yeah.
is very good, right? I mean, or when you go for a college, we look at lot of things. But when you go for the food, people are not questioning the food. I think that's critical. How you have to question the food. Like, where is my food coming from? Who is growing it? How is it coming to me, right? Because it starts from the very young age. So, I mean, right now we are trying a school program where we go to a school, make the kids actually grow. I mean, every school, a lot of schools in Bangalore, we are trying to partner, where actually the kids will grow their own food and they will learn, okay, what is happening, what are the challenges. So they get a little bit more awareness of thing. I think that is important. And second thing we are trying is to do some farm visit programs where we are, every weekend almost 100 families come to Akshaykalpa farm, stay there. I mean, it's not just some luxury farm, it's more like coming and actually learning how organic farming works. So I think things like this where slowly and steady you make people question food, farming, viability, and why we need to change. I think then awareness will come. And of course, once somebody sees, if they put it on their social media and tell their friends, their technology and other things will also keep on adding up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this sort of a ground level work is
curating
needed.
these responsible experiences for everyone so that then we are able to kind of scale the efforts. True. Very interesting. Yeah. Surya, anything from you?
I think I agree with both of them. Yeah, technology with the traceability, and our industry is created in such a way that traceability is inbuilt in the supply chain. All right, so it's just about connecting and showing it to the end consumer and building trust. That's definitely going to help, and a lot of brands have started to kind of work towards that and give that visibility to the end consumer. And second, of course, what Akshaykalpa is doing with the farm visits and stuff, because sometimes when you see those little experiences that you get, right, that changes your, like the smell of the soil or bees flying around, all of those are things that kind of you correlate with something that's healthy and stuff. And we have also been working on those lines, doing a lot of AMAs with a lot of different community events and stuff, and trying to kind of bring in that, okay, what is it that you guys are eating and how is it different, or what is not right with that and stuff.
Thank you.
One more thing that can definitely help us, which we are all not able to crack. I mean, we in organic, we are able to say these things are absent. For example, let's say, you take up their product, they will be clearly, they can give an assurance. It won't have residues, pesticide residues, or aflatoxins, or n number of things.
Yeah.
I think also what we realize is we need to do work on how nutritionally this is superior. I think that is still a Western country. There are some research around how micronutrients will be superior in organic food or an organic egg or organic milk. So I think that is one. What is in it for me can be more direct also. So that is one work we are trying to do. We are still not done enough on it. So we are also starting work on that.
Clearly, there's a very big part of this responsible role that not just businesses which are earning out of it need to do, but larger corporates and others also need to play a big part in it, whether it is regulatory bodies, government bodies, and others also. Yeah. So Rajesh, keep the mic with you. I have a next question. So for the audience here, I think in his previous stint, Rajesh did a lot of work around private equity and investment and stuff like that. So I want to kind of pose this question to Rajesh to tell all of us here in this room, budding entrepreneurs, different stage entrepreneurs, about how one can go about possibly raising the required funds for their businesses. So if you'll throw some light on that front.
I mean, if you can ideally build slow and steady without raising external capital, that is the best case scenario. And the best example we have is, next to us, right? They never raised any external capital and they built of course it takes time. There is no shortcut to that, right? So that is an ideal scenario where you're slow and steady through your internal cash flow you're building, because what it helps is, you are not swayed by the sentiments, right? Oh, this is what I need to do to get a next round or valuation. So you can focus on what is fundamentally right and do something which you believe in without any external distraction. That's an ideal scenario, which is what we recommend to every entrepreneur, as a first option. But of course, practically not everybody has the legacy or has the sort of balance sheet or has the patience to do it. There are some businesses do require capital upfront. The only thing is, I think you need to be extremely honest, with your partner. See, the thing is, it is almost like a marriage. Raising funds via equity route is like going for a marriage. You can't be dishonest and overpromise, because later both of you are going to suffer. That is what happens to most people. What they want is, going and overpromising to the incoming person that, oh, I'm going to grow at this percent and give me this much of valuation. So then everybody is happy. You did a PR and, like, oh, I raised money at this much valuation. For 6 months, you are like flying in the air. But 7th month, the business doesn't add up, right? It becomes a challenge. Because then what happens is that then you will do some things to get that revenue. Then we'll say, okay, how do we fool the next guy who's going to come in? Let us try and, decorate something which is not there. So you will get into that sort of a game, and eventually nobody is going to win. And there are hundreds of examples in agri sector. I mean, we don't need to, I think if you can just do any, runs in any public news, you'll come to know. There are, recently itself, last 3 years, 5,000 crores have been wasted by various companies without creating any value for shareholders, nor farmers, nor consumers. So be very clear, be very, very honest, right? Draw a very realistic business plan. For example, in Akshaykalpa also, when first I entered Akshaykalpa as an investor before I sort of moved the other side. So the business plan was an extremely realistic plan, and the valuation was a realistic one. Don't chase valuation, because high valuation is a nightmare, right? You don't want a Rishabh Pant in IPL, right? Poor fellow had to just struggle just because of the price at which he was bought. So you would rather want to be,
Yeah, 27 crores.
Whatever. Right? You don't want to be, that's a vanity metric that is only going to destroy the company. So be extremely realistic, right? And get people who are aligned. Extreme alignment is important. For example, your strategy is, let's say, conservative, get the unit economics right and grow slowly. Then you can't go and get a VC who is exact opposite of that, who is looking at heading a sixer or getting out, right? You can't, then it's a mismatch. But there are other type of investors. So be honest, right? Get the aligned partner, don't overpromise, and then definitely private equity can be a good vehicle. But ultimately, if you want complete independence, or if you're doing something, if you can afford, then please don't go for any external fundraise.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sure during the breaks, if anyone wants, they can take some more tips directly from Rajesh on going about this entire investment piece, because I think there's a lot of work that he's done in his past experience.
I would say take more tips from Surya on how to build it without taking external capital. So that is the more important thing. How do they do it? So.
Now you have to have the patience of being in the game for a good 20-25 years. Yeah, Surya has done that. So Surya, my next question to you. Yeah, so in the last response you mentioned about how farmers are worried about the yield, and sometimes you might get a great yield, sometimes it might not be the best. Yeah, so that might have an impact on supply chain and stuff like that. So my question to you is that what are the kind of challenges associated in a B2B or an export kind of a situation, and like how do you recommend, or what are some of your thoughts on how these can be navigated around? Yeah.
Yeah, I think anything with sustainably focused or conscious food as such, right? When you're thinking of starting something, the biggest challenge is always going to be the supply chain, because whenever you take this step forward, you need to ensure that you have consistent supply and you get involved in the entire supply chain. Typically, you can't just go to the market and pick up something. So supply chain is something that you ideally need to work on very strongly. Yes, end of the day, these are food products. There are agricultural variations that happen. That is one challenge. To usually mitigate that, you work with farmer sources in 2 or 3 geographical regions for the same crop, so that you are able to balance it out between the 3. 2 would be the effort and the pricing part of it. All right. So anybody who's putting an additional effort at the farm level would anticipate some kind of a premium that you need to pay to them. It could be, so how we structure it is we structure it based on the difficulty it takes to kind of grow that organically. All right. For some crops which is not so difficult to grow organically, we have a slightly lower premium structure. So with that lower premium structure itself, the farmer's literally happy. With a high-risk product, which is usually more difficult to grow organically, where the risk is more to the farmer, our premium structure also increases substantially with that to support that farmer. All right. And what we do is if a farmer has 3 acres of land, we typically invest on maximizing the yield from that 3 acre of land and ask him to grow multiple crops. All right. So one of that, how it helps is that, I mean, if one crop suddenly has a shoot up in the market price, one is relatively lower, he looks at it at a 3 acre, how much was my cost per cultivation and what price I got at the end of it. So that helps mitigate the risk of price fluctuation. The first one was the weather fluctuation. And then I think those are the 2 major risks. And 3, of course, from safeguarding ourselves, what we do is, even though we invest a lot in the on-farm activities, right from certification to monitoring to kind of ensuring everything is going according to the plan and stuff, we work on a non-exclusive basis, all right? Okay. So where we invest a lot of things, but we don't expect the farmer to 100% sell it to us itself. We always want to give the benefit of selling it to the local market, if at all the market price is much higher than what I can accommodate to pay. All right, so that migrates my risk of, okay, if it's a contract, then I need to buy it from him at any cost, and sometimes the market price goes up considerably, right? Yeah, so that way you migrate from the risk of supply chain while ensuring that you work closely with the farmer and support them and build up this further.
Very interesting. Yeah. You know, just for a little bit of a context, you'll tell us how many farmers you work with?
So we work strongly, I would say, with close to about 5,000 odd farmers. But in our group, we have under certification close to about 20,000. All right. Now the reason is that certification takes 3 years. All right. So I need to plan my supply chain 3 years in advance, because any new farmer, if you have a field today, it takes about 3 years for you to kind of sell something from that as certified organic. So roughly we work with about 5,000 farmers, and it's very, very important that with farmers, you need to ensure that you buy every year from them. All right. Even 1 year you skip buying from them, they wouldn't be interested in continuing it under organic. All right. So it's very, because now today, if you look at any statistics of Indian organic farmer, this thing, right, we are probably the 3rd largest in terms of the land under certification. All right. And now that you, on paper, it shows, wow, we're doing amazingly well in organic farming. But when you convert it to the export and the domestic consumption, that would be hardly 1/10 the, if you calculate, okay, 1 acre of this thing would give you 1 ton of yield, or any math that you do, it doesn't add up. Which means, and very unlikely that all of those farmers are continue to do organic, because if they don't see value, they don't continue doing it.
So if you were to speak to a set of farmers, what would you tell them that, what is the kind of impact they'll be able to see today from what they are doing to when they move to a certified organic farming? What is the kind of change that they will be able to see, either from their ROI or whether it is their social ROI? What is the kind of impact? What is your pitch to them?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that, of course, the initial motivator to any farmer is the premium that we tell them that, okay, this is the premium that we are able to pay. And like it was for Akshaykalpa, even for us also, initially when we were kind of trying to get farmers on board, it was a bit of a challenge. We had to kind of get them, and it took a lot of things to convince them. But today we do have a lot of farmers, because with the farming community, the best part is once they see another farmer doing quite well for himself, there would be 10 more people who would be inclined towards getting onto it. But yes, one is the monetary aspect, is what we would tell them about. 2 is, our intention is always to make them self-sufficient. All right. So we do a lot of investment in terms of educating them on their own composting, doing all of that, which it would take certain amount of time. But what they see is their cost of cultivation goes down significantly over a period of time. And 3 is just the general happiness and the health that they see in their fields, right? And we've had so many instances when farmers are just, I'm able to walk around not feeling sick. That pride comes in very strongly when they are doing something organically, and
Very
which they see in the soil.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks for sharing, Surya. So, Kaushik, back to you. Yeah, so exciting stuff that you're doing. And I was having a chat with Kaushik before we actually came up on stage, and some exciting stuff happening also around how they are, through the process of education and skilling, trying to create or trying to spread this message around sustainability, conscious food, around to more people who are associated with this piece. Would you like to share a little bit about that effort, Kaushik?
Sure, I'll just digress from that exact one because
Please.
there's another project that we've not announced it or spoken
Sure,
about
sure.
it.
Yeah.
So we run a university and we're trying to use education. It's a technology university, saying how do you use technology to solve large social problems. And so we have renewable energy as a 4-year major. We have
Yeah, let's
e-mobility as
speak
a
about
4-year major.
renewable energy. Yes.
So we have all of that as majors. So we've taken a project in our village in Chittoor, it's about 4 hours from here. We're working with 600 farmers. And we said, how do we make sure that per acre the farmer can go from the 10,000 to about 1 lakh?
Okay.
So we're setting up solar farms. We're setting up a wellness center. We're setting up a food forest as well as an organic farm and also dairy farm. So we're saying if one is off, because you can't guarantee, one, there's something else that's offsetting it. And all of these micro farmers which have between 1 acre to 10 acres, so we've taken 600 acres and said, you will all get the benefit of this. We've created a cooperative and we're experimenting with this. The students are building the tech for it. The renewable energy is being designed by our students. So the complete ecosystem is being built from that side. So we're hoping our students then will talk to their parents and that can accelerate the largest change that we can look at, but also create a model that farmers can come together to really solve for the larger problem, because renewable, there's a large need for it. So if you give that offset, tourism and ecotourism is big. So you get people to come in there, stay there, see what organic means, see what growing that
And
means.
this is just the beginning. Then you can grow it further into, a lot of other homestays and other businesses which can actually come in there as well.
We're trying to create that integrated
Fantastic.
one in that.
So my last question to the panel before I hand it over to everyone else, the biggest challenge that you'll have faced, keeping this going, this passion projects of yours going, one biggest challenge that you have faced.
In the restaurant itself, I think it's constantly changing. People are changing, so you are also evolving. It's fun as well. While it's a challenge, I think it's a fun challenge for us at least.
So it's a challenge, you're saying, because there is higher attrition? Is that what we're trying to say?
No, expectations keep changing.
Oh,
And
expectation of the
expectations from
consumer
your guests,
is changing.
Consumer keeps changing when they come back. They've gone somewhere and eaten something, and they come back and then they
That's a
compare
good problem to
it's
have.
a good problem. So it's fun. It's a fun,
Yeah.
like I said,
Yeah.
while it's a challenge, it's a fun one. But people, I mean, I'm sure everyone today, skilled people would be the second one to be able to execute some
Availability
of
of skill.
these. That is, I would say, the biggest challenge in our country at this point, or anywhere. I think globally this whole thing is happening.
Yeah, great. Anything other than availability of skill, talent?
I think it is consumer awareness. It is improving, but I think it's still a huge challenge.
Huge challenge. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think consumer awareness and the market to kind of scale, that's because in organic you don't see the quantifiable benefit immediately, like as in, so it's very hard to kind of push the concept of this is something that's going to help you in the long term while you're expected to pay a premium today. And with the trust issues that come along with it, right? So I think consumer awareness and building the market is challenge. Of course, the back-end supply chain also has a lot of challenges, but and I think this is the
larger ones.
Larger one. That's
great. Thank you. So we've had a few discussions which were probably planned for us, But anyone from the audience, any questions, any reflections? Yes, please. Just give us your name and who you're posing this question to so that we can...
I'm Dr. Pius Thomas. I come with a research background. I was working as a scientist. After retirement, I have started my own agri, biotech and food tech center. I fully endorse the desire of everyone to have organic food. And I would say it's a real passion. And I would also say it is a fashion. The reason is, I don't know how many of us sitting here would have gone to the farmer's field other than the panelists and see exactly what is happening in the farm front. Everyone sitting in the city or consumers want healthy and organic food. And we are ready. First thing is, it was all feasible, as Rajesh told. When the population was low, it was very fine. We all did organic cultivation. But gradually, as the population grew and the requirement for food increased, green revolution was the only solution at that time. With that, the fertilizers and the chemicals and pesticides, everything came. And now, I remember when I was preparing for the research service exam, way back in 80s, we used to say India population is going to be 100 crores by 2000. And how are we gearing up to that one? Now the population is 146, still we are feeding. It is all like the problem is the huge population which is to be fed. My assumption is that based on my calculations, if you want to have run 1 acre of organic farming, we require 3 acres to supplement to feed that 1 acre, because then only you can get that kind of NPK and the nutrition which are required for the crop. For instance, I just give one example. Urea contains 46% nitrogen, farmyard manure contains 2.5%. So how much would you require to add, and where I can get that farmyard manure? Being in city, I was struggling a lot to get one tractor load of farmyard manure, almost 1 month, and I paid 8,000 rupees for one tractor load. If I put that one, how much I can grow organically, but the consumers have to be prepared to pay 3 times or 4 times price compared to non-organic or
So more challenges, Surya.
If I understood correctly, the question was the cost of farmyard manure and accessibility to farmyard manure. Yeah.
I mean, we have done a lot of R&D work on that, so it is feasible. I mean, I think it's a great myth that organic farming is, less productive than conventional farming. I think, we have now 1,500 farms in which we have the data now. So in fact, the productivity is way higher, over a period of time. It just takes a 3-year, 4-year period, right? And, we have integrated 10 cows. 10 cows, the dung is good enough to, power the 3 acre that is required. In addition, we have to give backyard poultry we have introduced. Of course, you need to have a market accessibility for this. These 10 cows can't be non-productive cows.
Sure.
You should have a milk as an output. Similarly, you should have egg as an output, right? Of course, you require honeybees. I think there are people who are sitting here who know honey better than me. But honeybees are a very integral part of this. So you need a very, very integrated farm. It is not just about putting, one compost or something. It is not like it's too much of a holistic, it's like body, right? It's too complicated. It's very, very holistic. If you do all of that, believe me, the yields that we are getting is far higher. I mean, just to give an example, the coconut yields in the British time, right, was way higher than the current ones. And when we went back to the organic farming with the bees and everything, we are almost 75% there now.
See.
So that is the power of, this thing. But yeah, overnight you can't shift the entire thing. We can't do a Sri Lanka type experiment overnight, you can't shift everything to organic.
Yeah.
It will take time. It will require, cow induction. It will require 3 years. So you'll have to do it farm by farm, slow and steady. If you do, it is far more productive than the conventional
Yeah,
system.
and it's a very integrated approach. Like multiple things have to be kind of taken into consideration.
Too many things are required.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Hi, Rajesh. This is Raunak from Blue Chisel.
Yeah, Ronak, I know you. Yeah.
One quick question. We see a lot of enthusiasm around salads, healthy products, even for millet-based products. But when any entrepreneur comes to us and we encourage them to start a health food cafe or a snack brand, they struggle within a year. Is there a tip for smaller brands, for small health food brands to sustain and build a market on their own?
I mean, I don't know how to, there's no problem. Yeah, probably.
I think one of the challenges, we are westernizing this health food. We're looking at what is healthy considered in the European market, and go back to what is cooked in your house. It was very healthy. It was very balanced diets. So can we actually look at what was already done here, create health brands that are acceptable to our palates? I mean, we're not going to be eating salads. Let's be honest. All of us have gone down that path, and after 1 week, we're going back to eating biryani very quickly. But there is healthy food that we have done. There can be, I mean, really, if you go back and look at what our ancestors ate, that's the healthiest for our genetics also. And it's the calorie deficit. Our problem is we overeat. It's not the, so portioning. And I think there is a large opportunity there if we create traditional Indian food in the healthy manner. I think there's a large audience that can come and will come and consume this.
I think Ronak is asking more from the perspective of, to be able to put up a restaurant which is going to look like healthy food. And
Something again.
Packaging,
Package it in a way that it's
Yeah.
healthy. I'm talking about there is traditional food that was healthy,
Sure.
that has
Home
flavorful
food,
for our palates, and
I was
it
just
cannot be
thinking.
salads and juices.
I was thinking that in the previous panel, it was mentioned that Nikhil's restaurant, one of the complaints they received was that the food was too homely. So you have all kinds of customers, I guess. But then I think it's also about how we kind of package this to be able to kind
And
of.
Rameshwaram is like home food, right? It's
Absolutely,
doing very well. So
yeah,
it's-
as good as close to home food as it gets. Yeah. Any other thoughts, reflections? I think we are towards the end. Yeah, we can't
Hi,
take any more.
yes.
Oh, yeah,
Hi,
come.
I'm Monica.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand your viewpoints on how, in your respective models, you are de-risking a farmer by methods of institutionalization. Do you work with FPOs or do you convert farmer groups into FPOs? The second is, what kind of credit products do you innovate on credit products with your lenders? And the third is about, parametric insurance. And also, what kind of buyback contracts do you enter, with them into? So as to, make it a win-win for both of you.
No, I think very good question. So basically, the only way to de-risk is to have a diversified. I think we discussed. So you need to have a diversified sources of income because there are cycles, there are natural things. So dairy is one part, but they do need to do, for example, in our Tiptur region, coconut is a staple or the base this thing. So under that, can you also do a little bit of millets? Can you also do backyard poultry? We are also in our own way trying to help. But we can't give market access to all the commodities, but we encourage them to sell some of this to the local markets. But you need a diversified base. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Yes, there are certain for example, having what we call in dairy parlance silage, which means in the surplus time you store some of the foods, it becomes fermented and you can actually use it in the other time. So that reduces the risk a lot actually. It is also very good nutrition. So you would sort of de-risk the cycles of milk by giving a constant food. So to that extent, we can de-risk this farm. Second question on, we don't see FPOs is good, but the problem is if you want to do a deeper intervention, it is better to do it one-to-one farmer. So in Akshaykalpa case at least, all the interventions are, use each farmer on an individual basis rather than on a collective basis. But there are good FPO models as well, but ours is a one-to-one, model. The third question on the credit is a huge challenge, especially most of these farmers, because of the past behavior, because farm loan was available on tap and people took it as a grant rather than a loan. So there are CIBIL and other, credit score challenges. So banks are not willing to go. So in Akshaykalpa's case, we had to stand as a guarantor or at least a first loss guarantee, not like entire guarantee, but in finance parlance, we call it a first loss guarantee, we call it. So the first 10% of loans or first 5% of loans, we had to sort of come back and underwrite the risk because we know that these farmers will get a cash flow in our system. So we underwrote that. But without that, to be frank, to get you will get credit for post harvest. Suppose you already harvested, you will get a credit. But to get for planting something, it is extremely difficult. So you have to get some sort of a guarantee structures going. Market linkage, you need not have contracts. There is not that relevant as long as the output is good. Like how Surya was saying, they can even sell it to others. So there is a availability. So market contracts may not mean too much, and that is not the very essential feature to succeed.
Surya, do you want to add anything? Yeah, Monica is a passionate beekeeper, so she has questions around all of these. Yeah.
I think I agree with whatever that was said. And we also work on a very similar model. Of course, we don't get into the financing side of things. And once at a post-harvesting level, if the farmer is grown, then we get into the financing side where the harvest becomes the collateral, and then we are able to pay the farmer upfront for that. But apart from that, even we also don't get into much of financing. And our model is also where we work directly with the farmers. We don't work with FPOs particularly. We work directly one-to-one with the farmers and build our relationships directly with them. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll take one last question, and I see one more hand raised. Do we have the time to do two more? No, we don't. So we'll take one last question, and maybe in the break you can engage with the panel. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, hi. My name is Sushil Dwarkanath. I'm a co-founder of a new culinary school in Bangalore. I've been in the teaching field from the last 22 years. I have two simple questions. One is, any one of you all can answer. Is A2 milk real or is it a marketing gimmick? Secondly, I'm not done yet. Secondly, how do all the ghee manufacturers manage to make so much tons of ghee? Because you need to actually make curd and then ferment, and then churn out butter and then make ghee. How is it possible? Because I was also told that the three most highest selling essences in the world is honey, ghee, and vanilla.
Okay, so first question first. So, there is no science to say that A2 milk is superior. Absolutely no science. In fact, A2 itself was a concept created by New Zealand, dairy industry. It is not even an Indian concept, right? So there is no, at least we don't have any scientific evidence to say that A2 is better than A1. Even though there is a lot of demand for A2 milk, scientifically there is nothing like that proven. So I think just to answer your question on the number. Ghee, because milk has about 4%, depending on type of milk. Either a cow milk has about 4% fat, buffalo will have about 6% fat. So you can convert that and make into a ghee. So that way the milk is abundantly available. So ghee is available, but there is a lot of gimmicks around ghee. For example, there is something called as an A2 ghee, whereas A2 is actually protein. Ghee does not even have protein. So there are a lot of gimmicks around it which you can ignore. There are, ghees around new moon, for example. People make ghee in new moon. So all sorts of things are there. So that there is no science to it. But ghee itself is a fairly good product. A lot of genuine products available. There are some adulteration that is there, but almost all the mainstream brands do make proper ghee. So ghee production wise, you can easily match the numbers of milk, and you can there is no challenge in that math. If you do the milk production numbers and actually see the ghee, and ghee is very much required, because what happens is that especially in a conventional dairy industry, there are times in which the milk production is 30 to 40% higher during a season, and off season it falls. So milk is converted into white butter and stored, and also into ghee as part of actually preserving milk, right? So ghee is a fairly established mathematics, and it is I don't think you need to worry about ghee as a product, but you worry about all these marketing gimmicks around ghee.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I think I have the cue from the team that we are out of time. So I would like to thank the panel for sharing their personal stories, being very candid with the audience here, and helping guide everyone. I'm sure each one of you has some things to be able to take away from this panel. So thank you very much. And thank you to the audience. I think very engaging audience, and fantastic questions. We are left with the underlying theme that we need to create a lot of awareness, whether it is A2 milk or otherwise. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
On that note, we'd like to thank the panel for that very interesting discussion. Request Mr. Ram Ganesh, investor and partner, Multiple Ventures, Sally and Street 1522, to please come forward and present our panel with a small token of our appreciation. Please give them a big round of applause. We'd like to thank them once again for that talk on how conscious food practices are shaping the future of food and creating long-term value beyond the trend cycle.